Welcome to iDAS video channel. In this video, I'll show you what's new in iDAS version 12.4 update 1. Now first, why did we release update 1? Why we didn't release a new version? Because new version would mean a new licensing for our clients and we wanted to keep it simple. And basically we developed some new features and some clients say we need those features as soon as possible. Can you do something about it? And we say, okay, so let's release update 1, which means the same licensing, but the new features will be in. And we also did a lot of nice bug fixes, so it was worth creating an update version. Now, when it comes to those features which are the most important for some clients, and they said they need it as soon as possible, one of them is importing a network from the shapefile. Although there is a Civil 3D default functionality for importing shapefiles, unfortunately that functionality is very limited, and for some complex shapefiles it's not really useful. So as you can see, this is quite a big user interface because it offers a lot of functionality. And what we introduced as well, those little question marks icon that give you information what it does, how it works. So that should actually, it doesn't show anything here because it's grayed out. I didn't load anything. But as soon as I do that, you will see it will appear. So instead of going to the help file, reading what is it about and all that, those little tooltips should help you. And those are not the tooltips that are in a way every time you hover the mouse over something. It's only when you hover over the question marks which make it more convenient. Let me browse for the data. I'm going to shape data, stormwater, manholes, and then I will browse for the pipes. As soon as I load those files, you can see they are displayed here in the map. I can also check the preview of the data. I can see what parameters are in those shapefiles and everything. We only load first 100 rows. If you want, you can load all of them. You can do the same for the pipes. Let me go back to map. Let me zoom in a bit. Then you can specify that either create a new network or you can select the existing network. I will create a new network. I will call it Storm. Then you can specify the part list. You can specify whether you want to create property sets, yes or no. Property sets, so you can see again, you can read a tooltip. Then when it comes to structure creation, if you have a Z-value type of shapefile, you can specify that you want to read Z elevation. You can also assign the rim elevation from a shapefile. Let me go to lid. I think there's a lid level. Then the sump elevation, again, you have a few options. You can either specify it from the shapefile or you can leave it. And if the pipe exists, the pipe will determine the depth of the structure. If there is no pipe, the depth will be minus 999. So that's basically how it works. Then you can choose how you want to group the objects because you want to assign a specific part type and part size. So I'm going to use the diameter as a first thing, and then I think the other option would be legacy functionality. If I click on group structures, it will display those objects, and let me stretch it a bit. You can see number of objects in each group, and they highlight in a plan as well, as you can see those yellow dots. Then you can also import, export these settings. So you don't need to every time go and browse and set the values. You can just import, export. If you use a specific shapefiles that have always the same data, you can save it. Now, when it comes to those objects, so for example, you see some of the data do not contain field 1, which is a diameter. What I'll do, I will sort the objects by field 2. So I want all the manholes, and then I will sort them by field 1, which is a diameter, but I will hold shift and press left mouse button. So it sorts by 2 columns. You can see there are arrows on both, which means they are sorted, both of them. And now I can assign the sizes. Of course, 0, I don't know what should be 0, but I will, let's say, use this one. Now I right click and then I can use the manhole. Let me use hinge pinnacle, and then I will use a center hole, and this is 1050. I can choose from few sizes. I will use this one, apply. Then 1000 to 100, again right click, 1000 to 100, again multiple sizes, apply, 1500. Let me go there, apply. That's enough for now. If you don't specify the structure family and the part size name, then it won't import. So only those will import. Then I go to pipes. There's an option again, specify the start invert, so upstream invert, downstream invert. Let me go to downstream invert. Then if the pipe doesn't have a structure at the end, you can create additional structures. If you tick yes, I want to do that, I will add a max bit on the right hand side. Again, you can choose the size if you want to. And then under the diameter, I will specify the diameter. Let me go there. I think they call it nominal here. So I press N to quickly jump to the location where I want to be. That's fine. And I will use a material. I will group the objects again. I will sort by material, and then I hold shift and I sort by diameter. And let me scroll down a bit. And here they are. So I want to import rubber ring joint. I know the minimum size I have in my catalog is 225. I will go for hint high spec span rubber ring joint class 4. And then I will use, unfortunately this list is not sorted or numerically, it's sorted like more alphabetically. But let me go to size 225, and I will apply. Then let's say 300, apply, 375, apply, and 450, that's enough for now, 450, apply. Before I click OK, one important thing, if you assign the coordinate system in your Civil 3D, this tool will automatically convert the shapefile into your coordinate system if it uses different coordinate system. If I didn't assign a coordinate system, I would have a message here that no conversion will be done on this data. And I can basically click OK, and it will create the pipe network. The network is created. Let me zoom extends. Here is a network, as you can see. I can display the map. I'm going to display map aerial to see if it matches. There we go. So this is the area. And then what I'll do, I will display some of them in 3D view. Let me go to Object Viewer. These are the objects. If there was no structure, maybe I can show it somewhere else. I will turn off the image so we can see better. If there was no structure, then it creates this object. Let me go to Object Viewer. I specify that it is a max bit on the right hand side. So if there was no structure, it creates this object. And if I go to 3D view, there might be some structures which are very long. That's because there's no pipe connected. And I specified, like if there is no pipe connected, it will be elevation -999. And finally, if I go to properties for any object, let me go to normal properties, you can see that under the extended data, you can see all data imported from the shapefile. That is a lot. So this is briefly about this command. So this command is very powerful and should shorten the time to import the networks from the shapefile a lot. And this can be also used for other utilities types. Let me go to another feature, extract polylines. In this case, I have a corridor. Let me go to 3D view. And again, in Civil 3D, you have an option to extract polylines from corridor feature lines, but it is very limited again. So that's why we developed a command to extract polylines from a feature line. I can select the corridors. I can select this corridor and this corridor. Then I hit enter. Then I can specify the prefix. I can specify the suffix. There's also an option to create a layer for every selected feature line code, or you can take that off. You have also option to check all, uncheck all, or check selection or uncheck selection. So I'll check all and then just click OK. And as soon as you do that, it creates those polylines, and they do appear in a correct layer. If I go to layers, you see all those layers do have a prefix. You can specify any prefix you wish, the name and suffix. This is a code name which is used as a layer name. So this is a very nice command if you need to provide contractor with 3D objects, or sometimes they call them 3D strings. It can be polyline, 3D polyline. So this is a very nice feature, and you can nicely sort the polylines as per layer. Now another command, 3D faces. Now what it does, In some countries, they get huge surface drawings as a triangles, but they contain like millions of triangles, and Civil 3D cannot open them even. You can do nothing with those drawings in Civil 3D, but you need to get the data to create surface. So that's why we developed this command, import source, create surface from 3D faces, without opening the source drawing. Although here I opened the drawing, but that's just for you to show. But if you get a drawing from someone else and you need to create a surface from the triangles, you can't open it in Civil 3D because it's massively slow, but you know that the area which you are interested in is at a specific location. You can create a polyline. What I will do in this case, I will create a new drawing. Let me start up a new drawing. I will use the one without part list. That doesn't really matter. And then I will copy this polyline inside. Of course, you wouldn't do it in a real time because you wouldn't be able to open the source drawing. But in this case, this is just for presentation how it works. And then I can go and run the command import 3D faces. Then I browse to the location where my drawing is. Let me quickly browse there. And that's the drawing with the 3D faces open. Then I select the polyline and it imports all the triangles that are inside or crossing the polyline without opening the drawing. We did a test. We had a drawing with probably 20 million triangles, and it saves you a huge amount of time because, as I mentioned, it's almost impossible to work with that drawing in Civil 3D. Now, another tool we developed is to delete empty sides. We're getting sometimes the drawings from the clients that contain a lot of empty sides. So if that's the case, you can delete them with default Civil 3D functions, but sometimes it hangs forever and nothing happens. So that's why we developed this command, just to make it easier for the users. So if you get a lot of empty sites for whatever reason, this is the command to use to clean them up. We also plan to provide a little bit more functionality where you can select the sites you want. You can even probably select the sites with the object. We don't know yet, but this is just the first attempt to make the user's life easier. Another command we developed is called rename from crossing alignment. Let me actually switch to the drawing. Now this drawing contains the main alignment, then I have a crossing paths and crossing alignments. And this functionality for crossing paths and crossing alignments was developed for the culvert specifically, but there might be some other usage as well. Let me run the command, and actually this command, rename from crossing alignment, is identical with the pipe crossing station. Why? Because for culvert sometimes you want to rename both. So regardless which one I use, I can use any of them. So rename from crossing alignment. Then it says here to change the station format, adjust Civil 3D alignment station settings under tool space settings alignments. Let's go there before I do anything, because if you don't like the format which is used as a default, you can always go to alignments and then you can go to edit feature settings. And under the station, this is the place where you can modify the format, and it uses this format. So if I come in here, for example, I can use a station format, index format, I can use a meters or kilometers, so I can change the precision, rounding and all that. So it offers a lot of functionality. I will cancel for now, but keep that in mind that it is possible. So let me rerun that command. iDAS remembers the last command I used. I want to rename both, so I hit enter. Then I can select paths and I can select the main as one, no problem. Then I go to select reference alignment. I can specify if I want to change the name or description. I want to change the name. Then I hit enter. I can specify the prefix. The default one is prefix hyphen, in my case suffix. I want to use a hyphen suffix. Enter. It says that some of the paths or alignments couldn't be renamed, so I'm fine. I click OK, and here it says the pipe name 1, network name network 2 was not renamed because it doesn't cross the reference alignment, but all others were renamed. Let's check. So there's a prefix, chainage, suffix, decimal value. Again, prefix, chainage, suffix, decimal value, the same for this alignment. This pipe was not renamed. And if I look here, suddenly there's a 18, suddenly there's a 14, because we also implemented the station equations. If I go to alignment properties, this alignment has a station equation. And it starts again at a change 87, so there's a new value. So that's why this one has a 14 and it goes up. So that was also improved. So there are a few improvements in this command. Now, what are the other improvements we did? If I go to pipe design utilities, there's a pipe catalog setting. This command, we developed it originally, and then we got some other ideas to improve it. So as you can see, we offer here like icons because that's easier to navigate quickly. Then we offered the iDAS US metric catalog. The reason why we did it is because if you open AutoCAD drawing or third-party drawing, which doesn't contain any catalog, Civil 3D will create catalog which contains all the parts, not catalog, part list, which contains all the parts from the available catalog. And since the iDAS catalog is huge, it takes forever. So if I open like a drawing from someone else, I switch to Autodesk catalog, I open the drawing, I save, and then I switch to iDAS catalog. Because it is a lot of browsing every time, so we decided, oh, let's have a button for it. We can just tick or click, use Autodesk metric catalog, open the drawing, then iDAS catalog, done. We also brought the OK button because we wanted to be able just to click OK, and that's it. Now that uses the current catalog. So that's a minor improvement. Then let me drag over our what's new file. And under the improvement and bug fixes, super network, there's a house connection performance improvement. And this is very important. Originally, the house connections performance was like a degrading exponentially. What it means that for, let's say, 100 house connections, it was quick. 500 house connections, very quick as well. But 1,000 house connections, to create house connections took suddenly much more time. 2,000 even more. And it degraded exponentially. So we did some testings, and you can see here that 4,800 house connections took about 327 minutes in an old iDAS pipe manager. In the new one, it takes about 5 minutes. You can see here that now it is up to 960 times faster. This is a massive number, but it all depends how many house connections you have, because as I said, if you have like a 6,000 house connections, it wouldn't take double. It would take probably 4 times, 5 times more. As I said, the performance degrades exponentially. So that's why this is a massive number, but it all depends on the number of house connections. Because if you have, let's say, 500 house connections, you won't see much of the difference. But when you go to thousands, then definitely there is a difference. And we also mentioned here that the surface size will also have an impact, because for the same amount of house connections, if the surface has only 900,000 points, here we go, it takes 5 minutes. But if you have a 2.2 millions, it takes 20 minutes. So there's it's a density as well, like how close are the points, how many points per parcels you have. So there's a lot more, but keep that in mind, that the performance is impacted by the surface size. And then I would like to mention the attenuation ponds. So we worked on the attenuation ponds, and now they are working. I will create a separate video how to get them working. One of the other change here is that this is the orifice, and the orifice style is matched at the structure rim, which makes more sense for the orifices. For vias, it remains as it was before. It is structure sump elevation. There is a reason for that, which I will explain in another video. So basically, I have a stormwater network with a pond. Let me open pipe manager, and I'm going to structures, storage nodes, ponds, and here you can see the orifices. They are linked to tower. We call one of the via structure is behaving as a tower. Then I have 2 vias. One of them is tower, the other one is just a via, and I don't have any outlet here. There's a difference between outlet and outfall. Outlet is a structure that behaves almost like an orifice, but a little bit more complicated. Outfall is the end structure node. And I can run the analysis. Let me analysis completed. I'm going to graphs, and I'm interested to see the outfalls. This is a outfall from the pond, and then outfall which flows into the pond, the total inflow. Let me stretch it a bit here. So this is what's flowing into the pond, and this is what's flowing out of the pond. Now, are there any limitations? Yes, unfortunately there are, because we can't display those graphs for the orifices, vias, and outlets. And we also can't display the pond depth graph. But if you need that, we have a workflow for it. If you just run the analysis, you get an INP file, which you can import into storm and sanitary analysis. You can just run the analysis. You don't need to do any settings. It should work 100%. And then you can get all these graphs. Other improvements we did in a part manager is that every single tab, if I go to structures, for example, manholes, you can see the filters, those filters. If I click there, you can specify numeric on or value filter. They are available for each and every column, everywhere, wherever. Here, if you go to, let's say, conduits, again, it's everywhere. If I go to catchments, everywhere you can filter the objects, which is very nice, should make your life easier. Then you can also export graphs. If I come in here, you can export graph to image file, or you can copy file to clipboard. You can also go to this graph and export. And finally, if I go to conduits, those buttons, all of them do have some kind of functionality. We basically exposed the functions from the right-click menu to make it available for the user, so they see that some functionality is available. So you can either choose the right-click menu or those buttons at the top. Now let me close the part manager, and I'm going to move to climate change effect. I'm going to open part manager here. So this is the analysis with the TP108 unit hydrograph method. And we got a request that the climate change values should be editable. So if I go to catchments, there's an option under the hydrograph method to implement or use climate change effect. And that incorporates the values from the library. If I go to library, there's a hydrograph tables, and the very first table shows the percentage increase in 24-hour design rainfall depth due to future climate change. And those values are editable. So if you get a new values, then you can adjust them accordingly. And if you tick climate change effect, that will definitely be incorporated into your analysis. And what are the other news? There is a lot. If you go through our What's New document, you will see there's a lot of other minor changes here and there. You can really scroll through it, read through it, find out. So although this is like a minor update, it contains a lot of functionality or a lot of minor improvement and bug fixes. So it is definitely worth installing it. So we hope this new iDAS version will make your life easier.